Welcome in, whiskey freaks, to the Blind Tasting Podcast, your number one attitudinal bourbon destination. I'm John Stark, and I'll be bringing you candid and sometimes irreverent whiskey news, opinions, and reviews on the industry and the products they've been bringing us for hundreds of years. Today, we talk with Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer to figure out what the hell actually happened the night he died. So the guards were taking naps, the cameras all went mysteriously dark, and somehow the most high-profile inmate in America just poof. Guess it's just a normal Tuesday at federal lockup, right? Yeah, no. We will not be doing that today on the Blind Tasting Podcast, because today we're going to focus on nothing but bourbony goodness, because I've got all kinds of things to throw your way, and we might, I said we might, just learn something while we're at it. Okay, now usually those who listen to the pod know I usually end each podcast with a shout out. And I think today I'm going to start with a shout out. That's because I want to give a shout out to the farmers, the distillery production guys and girls, the warehouse workers, the bottlers, and the truck drivers, because guys, they're really the ones that make this all happen. So cheers to all of them. Now today I've got some whiskey news. I've got some big, I've got some small, but nonetheless it's all going to be whiskey news today. And I'm going to talk about Mountain Dew today. Yeah, I know it's not bourbon or whiskey, but this grabbed my attention, kind of I had like a squirrel moment the other day while I was doom scrolling on the internet. I got to lay this story on y'all today. And finally, I review, y'all, I can't believe I'm even saying this. I'm reviewing the award-winning Chris Stapleton and Harlan Wheatley Special Love Child Traveler Whiskey again. Yeah, I know I reviewed it last year, but if anybody's been paying attention like I do, Traveler has received a ton of big awards. A lot of accolades over the last several months, and it's in the news, it's noteworthy, and I'm going to review it. So I want to find out if I've missed something here when I reviewed it before. We're going to find out today. And before we go any further today, guys, I need you to jump over to Instagram, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, iHeart, all the places. I need you to subscribe. I need you to like, and please leave a review about the show. That'd be amazing if you do that. Some of you have. I love the feedback. I love the exchange of information. We've had a lot of posts recently on the socials where we've had a lot of interaction, and I love that. I love hearing from you guys and responding to your comments and questions. So like and review, it means something. When you do these simple button pushes, and that's really what it is, it helps me get more visibility, and frankly, it keeps me going here on the pod. My wife's going to eventually start asking where all the money's going, and if I don't at least put on the pod, I can't justify my bourbon habit. Help me out. Like and subscribe. So here's the deal. Now, you guys know how I feel about Buffalo Trace, and it's kind of a love-hate relationship. And well, what I'm about to share with you here is just one more example of why I get so frustrated with these cats. Buffalo Trace has just released their new and amazing E.H. Taylor Distiller's Council Bourbon Whiskey. You want to know what's got me wound up? Well, I love E.H. Taylor products. I love the history. I enjoyed the tasting notes, especially love the small batch specifically. For the price, especially if you get it at the distillery. It's got some great tasting notes. It's amazing stuff. It's 100 proof. Gotta love it. Okay, if you can find it for under $100 anywhere, I recommend picking it up. It's got the fun tube too. It makes a statement on your shelf, whatever. It's pretty great. But this new release, this Distiller's Council, let me tell you a little bit about it. It's 15 years old. Comes in at 100 proof. It's bottled in bond, and fun fact, it's made with white corn. They say it's supposed to be a modern interpretation of the bourbons produced at the OFC distillery in the 1800s. So the history is that the OFC distillery, now known as Buffalo Trace, was originally established by Colonel E.H. Taylor Jr. in 1870. And it was known for his innovative use of copper fermentation vats, column stills, and a steam heating system. So the distillery's name, OFC, it's said to stand for either old fire copper or old-fashioned copper. I most of the time hear old-fashioned copper. Anyway, so this expression, Distiller's Council, it's a throwback to the olden days, and so that's very cool. The way it was created, or it was born, so to speak, goes back to 1996. They had a summit, I guess a bourbon summit at Buffalo Trace, where master distillers like Elmer T. Lee, Harlan Wheatley, and other folks gathered to revisit historic whiskey-making practices. After they tasted over 30 samples and explored a lot of these old methods, the group envisioned a future release that honored early American distillation. Now their vision's been realized today in this 14th addition to the E.H. Taylor Jr. lineup. It's hard to believe there's 14 there. This bourbon is made using Taylor's original sour mash process. Say that fast 3 times. And equipment inspired by his era. And it's packaged in a custom, super-duper magical Grecian-style decanter modeled after 1950s old Taylor bottles. It's presented in a specialty super-duper box. It's very fancy. I can attest to that. I've seen it. Looks great. But there's always a but with me, right? Well, I'll get to the but in a minute. But Buffalo Trace calls it the closest modern interpretation of what Taylor would have produced in the 1870s at the OFC distillery. Already said that. Ultra limited release. Colonel E.H. Taylor Jr., Distiller's Council, comes in at a super magical, affordable price for billionaires, $1,500. But hey, it's a 750 milliliter bottle. So there's that. Now, Buffalo Trace hasn't disclosed an exact production count for the Distiller's Council release, but what we do know is that this bourbon's being released in, like I said, limited quantities. It's going to be available at select retailers, restaurants, and bars starting here in July. Now, they say it's going to be aimed at collectors and enthusiasts and billionaires like Elon Musk and Bill Gates. I added the last part. Buffalo Trace has lost their mind again. On to some folks I really, truly love. Jim Beam. And they've got a new release for us. Actually, they've got a couple, but I'm only going to touch on one in this episode. I'm going to touch on another one in a couple days. Jim Beam's got a new release for us. And I'm not talking about the Sunshine Blend. That's one I mentioned in the last full podcast episode. I can't find Sunshine Blend anywhere near me. My guy near the house doesn't have it. I'm probably going to have to head up to Fairview Heights to the Total Wine. I hate to do that, but I really want to find it. And I've put some cocktail recipes out there for you guys on the socials. Hundreds of people, lots of shares. Everybody's loving that. Jump out there, see those recipes. It's really cool. Anyway, I want to try the recipes. And I've got plenty of Jim Beam here in the house, but I want to get the Sunshine Blend. Anyway, this is not about the Sunshine Blend. This is the second release of the Lineage product from Jim Beam. And it comes from barrels aged 15 to 20 years. It's bottled unfiltered at a wonderful 111 proof. And this Jim Beam Lineage 2, they say it delivers creamy toffee and oak aromatics with notes of leather and char, complemented by sweet creme brulee. Sounds like a symphony in your mouth to me. Haven't had it. I did have Lineage Batch 1 last year. It was good. I didn't buy a bottle because it was $250, and I actually found some of the little book to be more appealing for lots less money, and I was able to get a couple bottles of that for basically the same price as one bottle of Lineage Batch 1. That's just me. They say Lineage Batch 2 will be available for sale beginning at 9 o'clock in the morning, July 18th. And July 18th will be 2 days from now because this is going to drop on the 16th. Like I said, last year it was $250. My guess is we're talking about Jim Beam here. I would say it's going to be right about the same this year. I have not heard for sure, can't verify, but I would be surprised if they raised the price. If they raised it at all, maybe it would be $265. I'll find out and I'll report back to you guys. And a pro tip, if you swing by the distillery there in Claremont, and I plan on doing that here in October. Yes, October, end of September. If you swing by the distillery, you can actually go upstairs and you can taste all of this stuff beforehand. They've got tons of stuff downstairs. They've got the 18-year Knob Creek. They've got all the little books that they have in available at that time. They've got Booker's. They're going to have this batch 2 lineage upstairs, most likely in the bar. So for, I think it was $20 last year, I was able to try the Lineage Batch 1. Wouldn't be surprised if they didn't raise that $1 or $2, but before you drop $250, $260 or more dollars, go upstairs, try the stuff. It's worth it. It's worth the investment. Like I said, I found out that I liked the Lineage Batch 1, but I didn't love it as much as I loved a couple of the little books they had. So anyway, enough about Lineage Batch 2. Jim Beam, I love them. I love their products. I know I talk about that. I gush about them. They don't support the show. Wish they did, but they don't. Anyway, head out to Jim Beam in Claremont. Get you some Lineage Batch 2. So this is a fun one here at Milam and Green. They are, as you know, we've had the tragic flooding in Texas here recently, and Milam and Green is supporting Texas flood relief. They're based in Blanco, Texas, and they're stepping up to support the flood relief efforts. The CEO and master blender, Heather Green, she recently shared how the distillery is contributing to the cause with help from her loyal sidekick, Franklin the dog. I don't know much about Franklin the dog, couldn't find out much about Franklin the dog. I'm sure Franklin is absolutely adorable. As part of a larger community effort, Milam and Green, they're donating 15% of all online and distillery sales through July 15th, which would have been yesterday, to the Community Foundation of Texas Hill Country. And they're going to be doing additional donations from special releases to follow. And the good ladies at Milam and Green are encouraging others to give back, volunteer, or if you need help, seek it. So Milam and Green is known for its award-winning whiskey crafted by a team of ladies, including Heather Green. She was formerly a whiskey writer. I think she was out of New York. And master distiller Marlene Holmes. Now, she's a 30-year whiskey expert. And they've earned high praise, including 2023 Rising Star Spirits Company of the Year. And I think Green was named Master Blender of the Year, and Holmes took title of 2024 Master Distiller of the Year. So these ladies have great accolades. If you can spare a dime or $1 or even more than that, help these folks out in Texas. Rebel Bourbon. And I've reviewed the Rebel 10-year before on the pod. They have announced the 2025 release of its 10-year single barrel bourbon. As you know, it's produced by Luxro Distillers, crafted by master distiller John Rempe. And it's a wheated bourbon, uses a mash bill of 68% corn, 20% wheat, and 12% malted barley. It's aged for 10 years and bottled at 100 proof. The 2025 release continues the brand's annual tradition, so they say. And this year's batch is limited to 2,600 cases. And it will be priced at, just like last year, $99.99. Now, I got mine for $109 at the Friar Tuck's nearby. I didn't feel like that was too big of a ripoff. Sometimes you get gouged there. Not going to lie. I did not get gouged, and I felt pretty good about it. It was decent stuff. And if I can get my hands on this Rebel 10-year release, I'd love to compare and contrast it against last year's. So Rebel 10, they say it's earned high marks on their competition circuit. And you know how I feel about that. The 2025 release won double supercalifragilistic platinum at the Ascot Awards and double gold magical pixie dust at the San Francisco World Spirits, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it's pretty decent, and it's worth $100. So they say previous editions of Rebel 10 have received praise from whiskey reviewers, yada, yada. Of course, duh, what are they going to say? The release will be available in select markets while supplies last. I have found in previous years there's no need to rush on the Rebel 10. It's good. People are not killing each other in the parking lot and waiting in line for 6 days to get it. You will be able to find this stuff days or maybe even weeks after it's released. So don't freak out. But if you can, I would say grab a bottle. Let me know what you think. And this is unrelated to bourbon and whiskey. Sometimes I veer off the path. Ale 81, A-L-E, the number 8, O-N-E, Ale 81. They're turning 99 years old. And you're probably asking me right now, Stark, why the hell and who cares? Well, I do, and you should too. I've enjoyed Ale 81 here on the pod, and I've used it as a mixer with, I believe it was Rebel. Speaking of Rebel, I think it was Rebel 100 to make it more palatable, because quite frankly, Rebel 100 to me is not palatable. But it was delicious in a cocktail with Ale 81 blackberry soda. And like I said, it made it more palatable. And for those of you with infinity bottles, that means more drinkable. And I'm especially fond of their, like I said, their blackberry Ale 81. It's great for whiskey. It's great for mixing in whiskey drinks. It's great for drinking in a glass with ice out on the patio. And another reason they're kind of near and dear to my heart, they're located in Winchester, Kentucky, which is not far from my in-laws. Anyway, they just turned 99, felt like it was worth noting, and I'd recommend you head over to their website, see if you can find any of it near you, and if you can't, maybe they can ship it, I don't know. They've got all kinds of flavors over there, like blackberry, their original flavor, cherry, their heritage with real sugar, orange cream, zero sugar, yada, yada, yada. There's all kinds of delicious flavors over there to drink straight or to use it to mix with some bourbon or whiskey. They don't pay me to say this. It'd be great if they did. But even if they did pay me, you'd get my honest take. It's good, so get some. Oh, and if you make your way to Winchester, Kentucky, you can go to the Ale 81 factory and you can actually take a tour. So, good news for those of you who may be on the Bourbon Trail. It's only 79 miles from Bardstown, and it's only 20 miles from Lexington. So if you're up in Lexington at a couple distilleries there, shoot over to Winchester, Kentucky. All right, I've got some more news here, and especially if you're here in the Midwest and specifically in the St. Louis, Missouri area. Old Monroe Distilling, they're located in Columbia, Illinois. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump from basically anywhere in the St. Louis area. They are celebrating their 10th anniversary, and they're going to have a big celebration this Saturday. I'm going to be going to it. It's going to be from 12 to 9 at the Old Monroe Distilling Company in Columbia, Illinois. They're going to have live music. They're going to have food trucks. They're going to have handcrafted cocktails, cold beer and wine. They're going to have other celebratory activities, all kinds of good stuff. And the best part, they're going to have lots and lots of whiskey. Now, Old Monroe Distilling was founded in 2014, and they've since grown their business, and they offer a range of spirits and hosting events at their facility in Columbia, Illinois. They do contract distilling as well, and good news, they put out their own stuff, which is normally really good stuff. I especially love their peach vodka. They put that out using local peaches from a place called Eckert's, which is nearby here in the St. Louis area. They got some really good whiskey, like I said, and other spirits too. I think they have gin. I don't drink gin. So anyway, Adam Stumpf, he's the owner. He's a super cool guy. I've met him several times. If you're in the area this Saturday, it's worth a look. And if you need a space for a big event, they've got a big event center. They just built this bajillion-dollar event center. No, it wasn't a bajillion, but it was a lot of money. It's beautiful. It's called the Bourbon Ballroom. It's available for weddings, other gatherings. Again, they don't pay me. I'm sharing this information with you. If you live in the St. Louis or surrounding areas, you're going to want to stop by the 10th anniversary of Old Monroe Distilling. It's in Monroe County, Illinois. That's why they called it. Anyway, you get the basic idea. All right, now, Whiskey Freaks, I know this is a bourbon podcast, and I veered off into the world of Ale 8 there for a little bit, but sometimes the news out there is just too weird not to share. And since this thing is largely about what I like, no offense, kids, we're going to do the do. And so today we're diving into Mountain Dew and the apocalypse. So a conspiracy theory is floating around out there on the internets. I do mean floating. And this conspiracy theory claims that Mountain Dew flavors are somehow predicting major disasters in the United States. And this is how the theory goes. It comes courtesy of a guy named Maverick Bailey, which is cool. Anybody with a name like Maverick, wow, what a badass, right? Anyway, he's at Maverick Approach on Instagram if you want to look at him. And yeah, I was doom scrolling, literally, I guess. And so this Maverick Bailey dude, he's a guy who's basically the Nicolas Cage of soda-based prophecies. And what does Maverick believe? Well, he believes that every time Mountain Dew drops a new flavor, something terrible happens. And his evidence is, well, he says in 2001, Mountain Dew released Code Red. And just a few months later, we got 9/11. You think that's a coincidence? Well, I do probably. But it gets weirder. In 2019, they released Maui Burst Mountain Dew, and that hit the store shelves. And then, in 2023, tragic wildfires hit Maui, Hawaii. There's more. Next was Star Spangled Splash in 2024, and that was shortly before the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed in Baltimore. Coincidence? I think not. Well, no, I do think. But Maverick, he thinks otherwise. Now, this Maverick guy, he's sounding the alarm over this summer's new flavor. We're getting ready to have a new flavor from Mountain Dew, and it's called Baja Midnight. And he says it could mean any, because Maverick, he knows, right? He says it could mean anything from paranormal chaos, the fuck is that, to a full-blown cyber blackout. Personally, I think it just sounds like a drink you regret ordering at Taco Bell at like 2 a.m. Now, what does Mountain Dew say about all this conspiracy stuff? Well, Mountain Dew, they had a lot to say. Mountain Dew's official response to the whole theory, they commented on his post and they said, keep your voice down. Yeah, that's it. That's all they said. Keep your voice down. So my conclusion here, Mountain Dew is either launching sugary chaos into the universe, or people online just have way too much damn time and not nearly enough bourbon to drink, or maybe too much bourbon to drink, I guess. Either way, if a flavor called Doom Dew ever shows up, I'm grabbing my whiskey and I'm heading for the hills. I almost forgot. More big news. The biggest news. And what is that big news? This is the greatest news ever released. It's the biggest, most beautiful news. You guys know I've got my ear to the ground when it comes to the happenings in bourbon, right? And this week, we got a little whiskey meets baseball action. Now, I'm not talking about the All-Star game, which happened last night. I'm talking about our old friend, Traveler Whiskey. You heard me right. Traveler Whiskey is now the official whiskey of Major League Baseball. And it's not just the official whiskey of Major League Baseball. It's the very first official whiskey of Major League Baseball. Not a joke. Traveler Whiskey. You know, the one co-created by Chris Stapleton and Harlan Wheatley from Buffalo Trace for us good folks. Major League Baseball has picked a whiskey brand for the first time ever in history on Earth to represent the league, and they chose Traveler. Now, if you haven't tried it yet, Traveler is that 90 proof blend that in 2024 they're saying this, not me, took the world by storm. And their marketing folks say it's super drinkable. It's got a little oak, a little sweet maple, some tart currant and spice. And their marketing folks also say it's got range. Stapleton and Whiskey. This is from them. This is from the good folks at Buffalo Trace. Stapleton and Whiskey tasted over 50 different blends before they landed on what they're calling blend number 40. And this magical blend number 40 is where they landed, is perfection. Okay. So starting this summer, Traveler is showing up everywhere. It's going to be in all the ballparks. You're going to see it on broadcast television, on radio, digital content like MLB Power Rankings, and even in stores with limited edition tie-ins. I can't wait. And get this, Stapleton said he and his wife have made going to baseball games part of their road life tradition. And now the whiskey they helped create is literally part of the game they love. Well, isn't that sweet? So, if you try blend number 40 at a game this season, let me know what you think. Slide into my DMs. See what I did there? Slide into my DMs. Drop a review or just scream real loud, I'll probably hear it. And that leads me to the fun part, kids. The part I do not just for me, but for all you whiskey freaks out there who have less and less cash to drop on silly things like whiskey and got to direct the funds a bit more strategically these days. We're going to find out if we should keep, collect, or cull this magical creation that the good folks at Buffalo Trace call blend number 40, Traveler Blended Whiskey. So, pulled this bottle out from the deep, dark depths of my whiskey collection because, as I mentioned it, we've reviewed this last year, right after it was released. It wasn't, but I don't know, just a few weeks after it was released, I was able to run down, and I was excited. I was thrilled. I ran down to my guy, and he had it for the low magical price of $34.99 here in the St. Louis area. So I'm going to give you the deets, and then we're going to get to tasting this. So the company is Sazerac. The distillery, I've already mentioned, is Buffalo Trace. Okay, the age. Now, there is no age statement on the bottle, and they tell us absolutely nothing about it, other than it's blended and bottled at Buffalo Trace Distillery in Frankfort, Kentucky, and that the blend features whiskey hand-selected from Sazerac's portfolio of distilleries. So we can gather, since it's straight whiskey in the blend, that it's aged at least 4 years per TTB regulation. So 4 years old at least. Now the mash bill, again, there's no information. They're not giving us any. This is premium. They are putting this whiskey out as a premium whiskey, but they give us absolutely zero information about it. They are intentionally not telling us anything other than it's blended whiskey, and that means your mind can wander to some terrible places, right? I mean, I guess your mind could wander to some amazing places, but either way, I think we should all be pressing these companies to tell us exactly what's in the bottle. That's just me. Don't get me started. I don't want to rant today. All right, the proof. It's 90 proof, and that's really one of the only facts we get. And of course, that's mandated by the government. So I'm already not thrilled to have to play a big guessing game about what's in this bottle. Now, I've read that most of the liquid in the bottle is from Canada, but since they're not telling, we're just guessing. Today I'm tasting with a Glencairn glass, my favorite limestone branch, Glencairn actually. Let me go ahead, and the bottle doesn't look bad. It's pretty simple actually, and it actually has a cork that makes it premium. You know, Chris Stapleton was just here in St. Louis, and he played to a sold-out crowd, and for good reason. I think he's got 10, 11, 12 Grammys. Super talented musically. Now, my wife's seen him in Chicago, but I've never seen him. Love to see him one day. So many Grammys, so much talent. Super cool guy. Donates a ton to charity, and in both time and money, actually. He's a great guy. So I've got the bottle open. I poured it into my glass. And I want to talk about the color of the whiskey. And never judge the color by the bottle alone. Now, this bottle, in particular, is not a terrible bottle to judge the color by, because there's not a lot of labeling on this bottle. But nevertheless, you don't want to judge the color by the bottle. You're not going to get a good representation of what you're looking at. So you got to pour it in a glass. I typically use a Glencairn. And here I go. You know, the color sometimes gives you an idea of the breadth of flavors you're about to receive in your mouth. In my opinion, the darker the hue of the whiskey in your glass, the deeper the flavors are going to be. And it's not always true. It is sometimes. It is most of the time. It's worth noting. And I'm going to say it every doggone time. So the color on this whiskey in my glass, again, it's the CIA interrogation room down here. I've got the lights turned up. I need the lights turned up. Don't see real well. The color is very light yellow. Very light yellow. Like lighter than I've defined bourbons before, like straw, like a light yellow straw. This is lighter than that. Now, the good folks who break news about bourbon, you know who I'm talking about, they call it light gold. I think that's generous. I think very, very light gold is a better way to describe the color of Traveler. And if you look at it through the bottle, like I said, you might say light gold, but in the glass, it's very, very light gold. That may be a distinction without a difference, but it's very light gold, like I say. The color can be deceiving in the bottle. It can also be a precursor to the flavors, kids. Let me give it a good nosing here. I'm going to swirl it around in my Glencairn a little bit. Oh, and I've got my tasting notebook here with me. I don't always mention this, but I'm going to mention it today. Have a notebook. A lot of people, you could maybe use your phone. If you got a notes app on your phone, make notes. I'm old school. I'm an old guy. I write it in a notebook and then I transcribe it into a Microsoft Word document later. I'm going to take notes of the date, the time, what I ate today, those kind of things, because we know that kind of stuff can affect how you receive the flavors of the whiskey. And I'm going to be able to refer back to this months or years later to say, hey, did I ever taste it? And did I like it? What did I like about it? What didn't I like about it? And it's a good way for you to be able to compare and contrast existing or future releases against one another too. So I've got my notebook. I'm going to be taking notes today. So just wanted to mention that for you, give you a second. Don't forget to have a notebook. So let me give it a good nosing. I'm going to swirl it around a little bit in the Glencairn. Kind of get those aromas to come out the top of the Glencairn. Now, this isn't bad. There's a little bit of antiseptic note here, though, that's kind of hitting me right off the bat. Think hospital room, or like a whiff of, like when you get your flu shot or whatever vaccination you're supposed to get these days, and they swab your arm with that cotton ball. Just a little, it's not overwhelming, but there is a little bit of it there, so I have to mention it. I'm not really getting a lot of strong ethanol coming off here, but I am getting that note. And I'm getting a nice caramel scent here. And even some vanilla. It's really not bad on the nose here. This is exciting. Because if you remember, well, I'm not going to talk about my last review. You can go back in the archives of the podcast and look back to one of the first reviews I did was Traveler. Okay, I'm getting a little bit of, the more I swirl it, the more I sniff this thing. There's a little bit of light fruitiness in here, maybe like dried fruit, like raisins. Again, that caramel, that vanilla, but not much else in here. And like I said, just a little bit of antiseptic-y kind of type of flavor there, or note. If you can get past that whole hospital vibe, it's not a terrible nose. It's just very faint notes here on the nose. Okay, so before I take my first sip, I just want to make it clear. I have no skin in this game. I didn't get this bottle for free. I paid for it. Always. So whatever we get today from me is going to be my truth, my opinion. And remember, I'm doing it for you guys. Okay, I'm also doing it for myself. But this isn't going to be bullshit. This is going to be the truth. Nobody's paying me to say any of this. So, alrighty, let's jump in here and get a sip. I'm going to do that Kentucky Chew that Booker taught us. There's that antiseptic note. Lots of ethanol here. It's kind of tart. I got to admit, there is a bit of creaminess to it. And it's got an oakiness to it and some sweetness, but the oak is kind of a rough oak, if that makes sense. I'm going to get at least one more sip today because I owe it to you guys to give you a full review this time. Last time, in all honesty, was a bit abbreviated, we'll call it. So let me get, okay. I'm trying to figure out the best way to word this. And, okay, the sweetness, it's more a vanilla than a caramel. Even though I got caramel on the nose, this is vanilla leaning. But like a fake vanilla, not like the vanilla you get in Cancun when you're on vacation, right? That stuff, my wife gets that stuff every time we go to Mexico. This is more like an artificial flavor. And if you remember back, If you remember back when we reviewed Devil's River a few months ago, it had this same artificial, that's a new word, artificial sweetener taste to it. Sweet, but kind of a sickening sweet. Let me get another sip here. Okay, well, there's a bit of nuttiness in here, along with that kind of rough oak note that's really coming through. Now, remember, this stuff has won all kinds of big awards. This is being billed as a premium whiskey. Now, somehow they're selling premium whiskey for $35, but Buffalo Trace is marketing this as premium. I feel like there should be a myriad of tasting notes all kind of rolled into this bourbon, or this whiskey, it's not bourbon, rolled into like a bouquet of deliciousness. I'm not feeling, there is no symphony here in my mouth, let's just say. And you know how sometimes you want to like something, like you really want it to work because the bottle looks cool, the label says all the right things. Look, this whiskey has won some huge high honors in the whiskey world from the experts. Look, Buffalo Trace, they're Buffalo Trace. They've got the pedigree to put out good whiskey. And like I said, the awards, the marketing stick, it's slick as hell. But I'm sitting here staring at my glass thinking, maybe I missed something here. Maybe it's me. So I swirl it again, I'm nosing it again, I'm holding it up to the light, like I'm going to find something else in here. That's where I'm at right now. Now, I'm not stalling. Okay, maybe I am stalling a little bit. But I'm also searching my heart, because surely this isn't all there is to it, right? Let me get one more sip. Okay, yeah. Let me talk about my mouthfeel. I've seen the mouthfeel of Traveler described as creamy, like really creamy. There is honestly a bit of creaminess to it, and it doesn't stick around very long, but it's there just for a little bit. I think it was Vine Pair or somewhere where they said it's slightly more viscous and lingering than we expected. I don't know if that's a ringing endorsement, but I think it does have a bit of creaminess to it. So I'm not gonna hammer it too hard on the mouthfeel. The mouthfeel isn't terrible. Now look, I know it's only 90 proof, and we don't know what's actually in it here, so we have to assume it's a bunch of Canadian distillate, right? But I've had solid pours out of Canada before, and it's creamy, but it doesn't, that creaminess doesn't last long, and it's a bit thin and watery. So I'd rate it below average for mouthfeel, even though up front I do get a bit of creaminess. That's just the way I see it. And this is surprising to me. I'm shocked that we're at this place after a second tasting. I mean, I went in with an open mind. I gave it time. I gave it space. I let it breathe. I reset my palate. I came back fresh. But now I'm revisiting it here today after all these months, and dang it, this is not what I expected. There's something going on here I can't quite shake, and I'm trying real hard to put my finger on it. Let me collect my thoughts, because what I'm about to say, I really didn't see coming. You're probably wondering, what's the verdict too, right? Well, I'll have the answer right after the money spot. Are you looking to update your bar or man cave with some great photographs or wall art? Head over to Etsy at famousdocs.etsy.com and pick up some fantastic prohibition, bourbon, whiskey, and gangster-related photographs and art. Okay, kids, you gotta check this stuff out. They've got cool Al Capone, John Dillinger, Bonnie and Clyde stuff, all kinds of Prohibition-era photos from back in the day, old liquor stills, really cool stuff, cool photos. And if you purchase 4 or more items at one time, you'll get 20% off your entire order for a limited time. That's famousdocs.etsy.com, famousdocs.etsy.com. All right, so on the Blind Tasting Podcast, we have 3 verdict options. Are we going to keep it? Are we going to collect it? Or are we going to cull it? Now, to keep it means to proudly display it in your liquor cabinet or bar. This stuff is good for a pour anytime, but there's really no need to stock up on it since it's always available. You can always get your hands on it. Collect it. Grab another bottle, or maybe 2 since you find it so damn delicious, or just may not be easy to get your hands on a regular basis. And the last option is cull it. Use it to loosen rusty bolts or sanitize a dirty toilet. In the case of Buffalo Trace and Chris Stapleton's master blended number 40 magical creation Traveler whiskey, I say cull it again. It's still not any good, kids. And to think Major League Baseball has hitched their wagon to this stuff for how many years? Now, I looked up some endorsement deals that other major league sports franchises have done with products. And my guess for this one here, when you're talking about Nike and the NBA or Nike and other sports, you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars for an endorsement. My guess with this one, with Buffalo Trace for Traveler and Major League Baseball, is in the tens of millions. I'm not sure. Again, they're not disclosing it, and I couldn't find it anywhere. But we're talking about potentially spending tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars for a number of years. And they picked for the very first official whiskey of Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball was formed in 1903 when the National League and the American League got together. 1876 was, I believe, the Cincinnati Red Stockings. They were the first Major League team, but 1903 is when the beautiful MLB came about. They've been around now 120 plus years, and their first official whiskey is Traveler. Guys, this is America's pastime, America's game. This is a shame. Look, I thought I was missing something. I was really questioning my palate and my skill set and my sanity. But here we are again, almost a year later. Same bad whiskey, same bad result. So just for fun, I'm going to read the back of the bottle to y'all. The fine folks at Buffalo Trace, and I'm going to get the bottle here. The fine folks at Buffalo Trace say, and I'm quoting them, you got to listen to this, folks. Good whiskey is like a good song. It requires no explanation. One taste should tell you everything you know. Yeah, it did. No one has to tell you how to feel about it. You simply settle in and enjoy. But no, you did not enjoy. Blend number 40 is the carefully curated result of countless hours of tasting, and is exactly what you'd expect. A premium whiskey that speaks for itself. So you mean to tell me, after what was probably hours or maybe even days of tasting, they drag Chris Stapleton in, who, by the way, I don't think drinks, which is interesting, right? They drag him in and they taste pour after pour after pour after pour of this blended stuff. And they landed on this one. And you can't see me, but I'm shaking my head right now very vigorously. I can't even imagine how much money they're paying the marketing team here. This is a below average whiskey. You've got no details about it other than what's required by the federal government. But good news. Major League Baseball, they love it. This feels like, to me, this seems like something silly, something ridiculous. It's like if the Mayo Clinic rolled out a new wellness program and it was sponsored by the Marlboro Man. Or imagine if Chuck E. Cheese announced their new spokesperson was Jeffrey Epstein. Pretty crazy, right? So I wanted to see what some of the other guys and gals are saying about Traveler whiskey. And, I basically don't give a shit what anybody else thinks, but I just felt like I was missing something about Traveler. All the iconic brand in Buffalo Trace, amazing artist in Chris Stapleton. But something's wrong here. So here's what some others are saying about it. Tastes like Barton 1792 mixed with dirty mop water. Tastes like ethanol through and through. Now, keep in mind, these are not my ideas. These are not my quotes. These are what other folks have said about it, and I just want to be clear about that. Artificial sweetener aftertaste. Okay, now I agree with that one. Aspirin and bubblegum. Yeah, I never got that. A $15 bottle masquerading as premium whiskey. Yeah, that's pretty true. Now, some of the best reviews out there are saying things like, a superstar sipper with crossover appeal. And I'm thinking, yeah, well, so was Crystal Pepsi, and look how that turned out. Another review out there said, Chris Stapleton didn't just lend his name, he helped make something special. Yeah, maybe he did help, but if this is what they landed on after 50 blends, I'd hate to see blends 1 through 39 or 1 through 49. What were they doing? Mixing whiskey with starting fluid? Another review said, it's the best thing under $40 on the shelf right now. And that's just utter bullshit. Traveler is smooth, balanced, and dangerously easy to drink. It's the kind of bottle that disappears on a Friday night without warning. Yeah, well, I'll tell you how my half-empty bottle here is going to disappear. This is how you introduce whiskey to someone new. Yes, if you want them to start drinking tequila. Look, guys, I paid $35 for this bottle, and now it's going for closer to 40, and that makes sense, right? It's been a little bit of time, inflation, all that good stuff. Well, and it is premium whiskey, right? It's not worth it. Is it straight up mop water? Well, no, that's a bit extreme, and it does not taste like aspirin. No, not quite. But if you're just looking for a decent pour, hell, you'd be better off grabbing a white label Jim Beam at the ball game, or just order a Jack and Coke if you're craving that whiskey fix, right? This whiskey, this marketing stunt, this overpriced charade Buffalo Trace is pulling, it's exactly why I roll my eyes every time I see Buffalo Trace in a headline. Think Millennium. It's like they said, hey, let's call it premium, slap Chris Stapleton's name on it, make it the official whiskey of the first official whiskey of Major League Baseball, and people will line up to overpay for mediocrity. And unfortunately, they were absolutely right. Here's a better plan. Grab one of these 90 proof whiskeys instead. I'm going to give you a list here. Save yourself the regret. If you got your pen and pencil, you got your pen and paper ready. Okay, Very Old Barton. 90 proof, not the 80. Don't pick up the 80 proof. That's straight up mixer. A Very Old Barton, and if you can get the 100 proof, and you can get it for $20, $21 at the liquor barn. Get the Very Old Barton 100 proof. Old Bardstown 90 proof. Ezra Brooks is 90 proof. New Riff Bottled in Bond. My God, that's fantastic whiskey at 100 proof from New Riff. Barton 1792. It does not taste like mop water. It tastes fine. Elijah Craig comes in at 94 proof. It's fine. Maker's Mark is hands down better than this Traveler stuff. If what you want to do is drink a decent pour, if it's a mixer, shit, why would you buy for $40? Why would you buy this bottle to mix? You can buy Benchmark for $11 and mix, where you're not going to know the difference of what you've got in your drink, right? Russell's Reserve's got 10-year whiskey. It costs less. It costs right about the same, $39.99. But it tastes like it belongs in a whole different league than this Traveler crap. Hell, even Woodford Reserve at their blessed 90.4 proof, it's a smoother, love that word, more enjoyable pour than this Traveler disappointment. Am I being harsh? Well, maybe. But I'd rather be honest than let you end up in my situation, staring at this half-full bottle, wondering if I should dump it down the sink or give it to my annoying neighbors with the robot lawnmower. Either way, kids, don't say I didn't warn you. Well, that's all I got for today, Whiskey Freaks. Thanks for listening to the Blind Tasting Podcast, your #1 attitudinal bourbon destination.